Asia's best business minds and personalities with nowhere to hide and no way to avoid the questions. A captive interviewee for 30 minutes on board the Singapore Flyer. Welcome to High Flyers with Haslinda Amin.
Hello and welcome to High Flyers, the interview show with a different perspective. My guest today is a tennis pro turned businessman, now CEO of Hong Kong's Fung, one of the world's largest sourcing companies with a market cap of $17 billion. Meet Bruce Rockowitz.
Bruce Rockowitz showed his entrepreneurial streak at an early age, going door to door selling seeds to his neighbors at just 6 years of age. Later, he was a professional tennis player and coach in Hong Kong, aspiring to be as wealthy and influential as the students he taught. His chance came after meeting Alan Zeman, a businessman who went on to make his mark in Hong Kong's Lang Kwai Fong and elsewhere through bars, restaurants and property. For 19 years together, they built Colby International, a company sourcing and exporting products from Asia to the West. When rival Fung bought the firm, they got Bruce too. Now he heads up more than 35,000 workers across 40 countries. He's the first CEO of the family-run business who doesn't share the Fung surname. Locked in the Singapore Flyer for 30 minutes, Bruce Rockowitz tells us about his drive to make it to the top.
Bruce, what a story. You went from a tennis pro to the CEO of a $17 billion market cap company. It wasn't easy. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, listen, I started with nothing. When I first got to Hong Kong, I came to play tennis. And as I say to many people...
A school dropout as well.
Well, at that point, I didn't know that. I took some time off from college to play tennis and to teach tennis. And I thought I would do it for about 6 months. Go back to school, and so 6 months became a year became 2 years, and so forth, and I ended up being so far in Hong Kong 32 years. And when I first got to Hong Kong, and I always say, people ask me, what is your best investment that you've ever made? And most investments I haven't done that well on, other than I bought a ticket for $800 and got on the plane, came to Hong Kong, and that $800 has been really well worth it.
Your break also came when you were buying an ice cream in Repulse Bay in Hong Kong, where you met Alan Zeman.
Well, you've done a lot of research. Yeah.
What transpired?
Yeah. You know, what happened was, when I was teaching tennis, I was at the Hong Kong Country Club, which, if you're familiar with, is who's who of Hong Kong. And
including Victor Fung.
Including Victor Fung. And in fact, almost everybody important was either my student or a member, and I knew them. Important today in Hong Kong. And it was an incredible experience. And as you said, I came from nothing. Family had nothing. And I saw all these people that were very successful. And I had an incredible drive from tennis. I was always very, very focused on getting better. And so I always had this drive to be successful.
And your mom also said that you always wanted to make money. You wanted to be rich. Even back in school when you were young and you were selling seeds.
6 years old, I started selling seeds door to door. I mean, there's a lot of stories of my life that seem all now, when you connect the dots backwards, it all makes sense. I started as an entrepreneur at 6 years old, and I went from door to door selling seeds. In fact, I went so far away from our house that I had no idea how to get home and got lost. And I asked the person I was selling seeds to call my mother and to pick me up. I didn't even know my last name at that time. It wasn't easy. So anyways, I went from there, and I've always been entrepreneurial, even while I was playing tennis. And then when I came out to Hong Kong, I saw all these people at the Hong Kong Country Club, as you said, including Victor Fung, who turns out to be one of my students back then. And so I just saw that I want to be part of it. And I was thinking, how am I going to get into, I would take anything. You know, I would sweep the floors. I would do anything and start at the lowest level. And then one day I met Alan Zeman, who I'd met a little bit, not from tennis, through other friends, and at the ice cream store. And we were just having an ice cream together. And he said to me, do you know of any young guy like you that wants to come into the business? Because, you know, I have a business that's growing, and I'm on Taiwan, I'm in Korea, and I need someone to kind of work with me and to develop. Someone has not tainted by anything. Someone new, fresh.
Ooh.
Exactly. So I said, let me think about it, and I'll call you tomorrow about somebody I can recommend. So I called him the next day and said, I recommend myself. And that the rest is history.
You got your hands dirty. You did everything.
Everything.
To do with the business. What was the most trying moment for you?
Oh, wow, there was so many. You know, we used to literally work 7 days a week. An early night was 10 o'clock at night to finish, early. And we never took a day off. And this went on for a number of years. And there was, in the end of December every year, was always very trying for us. Because of the trade regulations, you had to ship out all your goods by 31st of December, or you lose a lot of money, and you upset your customers and everything. So Alan and I literally would stay at the factories 3 to 4 nights, 24 hours, never sleep, for the last part of every year. So it was very trying. I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore.
Coming up, why the future of business still lies in China.
Frankly, there is no next China. Nothing to this date do I see on the horizon that will beat China.
When Bruce Rockowitz moved to Hong Kong in 1979, he dropped out to play and coach tennis. Now he runs Fung. It's one of the world's biggest companies that designs, develops and sources products for thousands of retailers from Walmart to Zara. Locked in the Singapore flyer for 30 minutes and unable to avoid the tough questions, Bruce Rockowitz explains how China is still an unbeatable place to do business despite rising costs.
Our strength is we have a global infrastructure of sourcing that's connected by the best IT system that we developed internally over many years. So everything's on one playing field. And we're able to arbitrage and find the best prices, best speed to market, best value, best quality, etc. at any time in more than 40 countries around the world. So this really brings not only China, but all the production countries of the world to our customer. There's so much that goes into it. This is something that basically allows us to move and change depending on where the markets are. Now, as prices have gotten higher in the southern part of China, we move to the interior China. And as China, as well as to Vietnam, Bangladesh, and places like that. So this system allows us the flexibility to move as the market moves. But one thing that I think the world has to kind of understand is the last 30 years were an anomaly in the world. Really was. Because before that, between 1948 and 1978, when China opened, all the production for the developed world, for US, Europe, was done in their country. So the factories were just in the south of the United States, in the east of the United States, and that's how it was. When I grew up, prices would go up every year. There was inflation. Why? Because people's wages went up in the Western world. When China opened up, it opened up this whole new labor force, 1.2 billion people that not only were not there for 30 years, it also opened up all the other Asian countries. So all that offshoring production added a huge amount of workforce overnight to the world. And we've been using up that workforce and digesting that workforce for 30 years. And basically we've come to, I would say, the end of relatively cheap labor. There's no new China to go to.
Is there no alternative to China? Haven't you considered Africa, for instance?
Well, first thing is we have considered Africa. And in fact, we have 3 offices in Africa. And it's a place for humanitarian reasons why we've always tried to build business there. It's not that easy. They don't have the same workforce. And for sure, the logistics and connectivity to the rest of the world is not there yet. Over time, it'll get better. I just don't see it as the next China. And frankly, there is no next China. And what I see is China will reinvent himself. On the coast of China will be really focused on higher value production and consumption and fashion and things like that really take a lot more expertise. And the migration of the factories will happen, and it's happening now, into the interior of China. The only place that I think there is a huge availability of labor is in the interior of China. Outside of China, listen, Bangladesh, we're very, very strong in Bangladesh. It's a huge exporter, but it has a lot of infrastructure issues, one port, one road, a lot of floods, there's a lot of difficulties. Nothing to this date do I see on the horizon that will beat China. I really don't think so.
Li & Fung has expanded dramatically, and it's done that through a lot of acquisitions. In 2010 alone, you did more than 8 acquisitions. Is that the way you're headed?
I would say the one thing you'll get with Li & Fung as a public company is we're going to grow by organic growth and acquisition growth. And we've been doing that since 1994. The one thing that, if we're great in anything, it's definitely in buying companies. We are good in that. Hopefully we're good in other things as well. And it's a core competency of the company. And in some periods, we'll buy more companies, depending on what's out there, depending on the market. Between 2008 and 2010, we bought the most acquisitions because the market was very bad and there was a lot of opportunity.
You have deep pockets as well.
Well,
a war chest about $1 billion.
We had, and we've been spending it this year. We've done 14 acquisitions so far this year.
More to come this year?
Perhaps. And there's always something we're working on. Actually, many things we're working on. And you never know what's going to come to fruition when. But we will continue to do acquisitions. But we do see the difference between 2008 to 2010 and now is we have a lot of organic growth. We acquired a lot. Those companies are growing. We're taking market share. We have a lot of new growth drivers for the company. So we don't need to do as many acquisitions, but we won't shy away from doing a great deal. That's great for our business with great synergy.
Why is it that investors are not convinced the strategy will work? Your shares have been underperforming the Hang Seng Index.
That's right. They forget how it performed really well for the last 19 years. We're up 100 times since we went public. Everything's a moment in time. And right now, we're in the new 3-year plan, and people are evaluating, and they do this every 3 years. Are we still relevant? Is our model broken? I've been through that conversation every 3 years.
Are you still relevant?
I hope so. I think we're very much relevant. In fact, our first half of this year, our top line grew over 30%. Not many companies can say that in this market. Our bottom line was minus 15% year over year because we were investing in our new 3-year plan. The second half of the year is still very strong in spite of the market. So the backdrop of the environment is not great for any investor to buy any stocks. And so we got hit. But the business itself hasn't changed.
Is there a risk that, given rising costs, that your retailers could end up going directly to your suppliers to cut out the commission that they pay to you?
People that do say that don't really understand our business. And our business basically is to oversee quality, speed to market, getting the best price, arbitraging between multiple countries, design, development. And if our only value was to bring a customer to a factory, we would have been disintermediated many, many years ago. Because with the internet, there's no secrets. We're very clear who the factory is and the customer. But what we do is represent the customer and their needs, not just in one factory, but in many factories all over the world, and have a network, in many cases 500 to 1,000 factories for one customer to take care of all their needs. For one factory to go direct, it would actually make it more difficult for our retailer because they would have to set up quality control. They'd have to set up a whole new set of offices. They'd have to build an infrastructure that Li & Fung has that took us 105 years. It's not like the steel business. It's touch, feel, it's look, it's what you're wearing. If the fit is wrong, if the color is wrong, you're not going to buy it. And so that's what we have to deal with all the time in many countries. What we are is their arm to basically get the world's market to their doorstep. That's what we are. And so by cutting us out, they cut off their arm.
Coming up, finding the time to create a fitness brand.
First thing is I have a great partner who runs Pure. And for me, Pure is golf.
Keeps you sane?
It keeps me sane. It's my passion. It's artistic.
He spent 3 decades at the heart of the world's sourcing industry. But Bruce Rockowitz hasn't lost his passion for sports and fitness. In 2002, he co-founded a yoga studio. That's grown into a chain of premium gyms and restaurants from Asia to the US. Bruce Rockowitz joins us in the Singapore Flyer.
Apart from Li and Fung, you also run the Pure Group, basically gyms and restaurants, and it's seen all over the world now, even in New York, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan. What's the thinking behind Pure? Is it passion?
Okay, first thing is, just to be clear, I don't run it. I'm the chairman. And
You own it.
I own it. Yeah, I own it, and I'm the chairman. I have a partner. His name's Colin Grant, and he is my lifelong friend. We play tennis together. He basically runs that, and he's the CEO of that, and we're both extremely passionate about it. And when people say to me, you know, how do you do Li and Fung and Pure? Well, first thing is I have a great partner who runs Pure, and for me, Pure is golf. You know, other guys go play golf.
Keeps you sane?
It keeps me sane. It's my passion. It's artistic. You know, you have to appreciate that in the past, all my customers were 6,000 miles away from me. I always dreamed of being able to go into something that I own and see my customers actually do something. And it's something that I've always cared about. Obviously, coming from tennis, fitness was always a big part of my life. In fact, when I started in business, the first 2 years of business, the one thing I didn't do was work out. And I started getting fatter and fatter. And my parents hadn't seen me in 2 years, from tennis to them becoming a businessman. And I thought, you know, you look at a lot of the wealthy people in the world are heavy. And I thought, get heavy, you get wealthy. And I was a little
Very
young.
Asian concept, I think.
I was a little young. And so my parents came out. My mother said to me, Bruce, I mean, what happened to you? I put on so much weight. And so basically from that time on, I was about 22, 23, I've worked out every single day of my life since then. And so as I travel the globe, I've always looked for the best yoga studios, the best fitness studios, and I always dreamed, and I'm into building brands and design and business. I always dreamed I would do something that I would love to go to. And so, and create a Asian brand, a strong Asian brand. So that's what Pure does for me. It gives me a chance to really invest time, focus on something that I'm very passionate about.
Are there similarities in the strategy that you implement at Pure and at Li and Fung?
Well, I mean, to be fair, as I've grown up in life, I've always taken the best practices of everybody I meet and everything I do and get rid of the bad practices and keep improving myself. So for sure, when I started Pure, I thought about everything that was good at Li and Fung and instituted it all. And anything that I saw from other parts of the world, I instituted that as well. And so we were always very advanced as a gym and yoga studio concept, very advanced. I mean, from day one, we had entertainment on every machine. Not only entertainment, but we had videos that you can watch, you know, your favorite series or movie on the machine. And now we've more advanced. We've using iPad, iPod, everything on all the machines.
Size gives a company the competitive edge. Is that why you've been in a hurry to expand the Pure brand?
I've always been a person that likes things to get big. And if they don't grow, I'm not happy. So I'm always urgently trying to grow anything that I touch. And I do believe when you have scale, you have economies of scale, and you can give a much better product to your customer because you have the support and the knowledge, and you can leverage all the good ideas to each place that you own. And so I do believe it's very important to be big. Companies that stay small have a limited resource of knowledge and limited resource of people and limited capital. So yes, I am in a rush.
Coming up, building a life with Asian pop icon Coco Lee.
Was it love at first sight?
It really was love at first sight. We were inseparable from the first time we met.
In 1979, Bruce Rockowitz started out in Hong Kong making a living on the tennis courts. He still plays, but now he heads up an international trading and logistics company, Fung Ltd. He also owns a pure group of gyms and restaurants, and he's building a life with one of Asia's best-known singers. Locked in the Singapore fly for 30 minutes, Bruce Rockowitz talks about his love for Coco Lee.
You're about to get married to a famous singer called Coco Lee, an icon in Asia. Tell us a little bit more about her and why you fell in love with Coco Lee.
Well, who wouldn't? I met her almost 9 years ago, and she was this blonde Chinese pop star, and she was very vivacious, but I loved the way she sang.
How did you propose to Coco Lee?
The real story?
Yes, the real story. The story that nobody knows.
That nobody knows? Well, there's a lot of stories to this, but she always wanted me to get down on one knee. And I said, that's going to be a deal breaker. So one day, I had a party for her, and about 70 people for her birthday. I started to give a speech, which they always make me give a speech. And in the middle of the speech, I turned to her. She was standing near me, and didn't get down on my knees, but I asked her to marry me. And she didn't even hear it because she wasn't listening to my speech. And then she couldn't believe it because she thought I would never get married, and we're going to be together for life, but just not married.
Both of you lead such hectic lifestyles. How do you ensure you're in the same space?
Well, we both try to go see each other if we have time wherever we are. So a lot of times Coco will meet up with me, say in New York, or in Paris, or I'll meet up with her in China or in Taiwan. We have to do that a lot, and we don't mind. A lot of times she may fly for one day and come see me and then go back, or I'll do the same thing for her. So we're both focused on getting to see each other whenever it's possible.
Was it love at first sight?
Yes, it really was love at first sight. I hope for her as well. But we were inseparable from the first time we met, to be honest. And I ended up with a pop star who makes me feel like a pop star, because she's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and totally opposite of what you would think a pop star would be. She has no attitude. She's very caring about people. All her friends love her, and she's always worried about everybody else. And so it's completely, when you're with her, you have no idea that you're with an icon. But when you see her on stage, she's an incredible performer and icon. She's unbelievable.
Bruce Rockowitz, thank you so much for being on High Flyers. It's been a pleasure.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah.